Hello, hello. Top of the morning to you. Have my cup of tea. Today we're going to be talking about our higher mind. And it's important to remember that the prime directive for human being, aside from keeping the species propagated, our prime directive is to bridge the gap between our humanity and our divinity. And that's what this whole body of work is about. The Art of Returning to Love, How to Show Fear and Stress the Exit. I really recommend that you grab the book. You can get it for free. There's a link to get a PDF copy, or you can go grab it, Kindle or paperback version on Amazon. And where we're at today in the book is on page 20, and we're talking about consciousness. And so there's a lot to describe here, so I really do recommend that you go read, because there's like, I don't know, half a dozen pages or something that break all this out, and there's a visual. And the bottom line is that it's the conscious alignment of our conscious mind, our subconscious mind, and our higher mind, or the intelligent mind, or the divine mind, or the higher presence mind, and the sacred mind, whatever way you want to look at that. It doesn't really matter what you call it. Call it the thing that makes it feel like that's the intelligent mind that every single being has. It's not like some people are granted a higher mind and others aren't. We all have it. We wouldn't be alive, breathing, talking, and animated throughout the day if we didn't have it. So if our prime directive is to bridge the gap between our humanity and our divinity, what do you think might be the crux of that bridge, right? It's our mind. And you've heard, everybody's heard that we put, most of our attention on our conscious mind, but that's only a small percentage of our whole mind, right? So I love constantly reminding myself and others that there's this wholeness that we have access to that our smaller human mind has no idea about. And so our work is to sort of open up our perspective, our perception, and our willingness to see beyond what our programmed mind would have us believe is the end all, right? There's this idea that if we can't see it, we can't believe it as a human being. And so what of this mind business? We don't see our thoughts, right? Even though in Chinese medicine, our thoughts are considered one of the most refined aspects of our qi, but we don't see it. It's an unseen aspect of our qi, just like the wind, right? Like the wind blows, makes the tree branches sway. We don't see the wind, but nobody can say the wind doesn't exist, right? So think about it that way and begin this like contemplative inquiry in yourself, if you will, to understand more about your mind. Now, here's what I do. This is my tip of the day. So besides your homework, if you will, of reading the book about the mind, because that we would be here till midnight if we just talked about that section. But here's what I do to be able to see my mind is I literally, because everything on the planet, every particle and wave on the planet is light, right? Some of that we see in denser expressions, and some of it we don't see, like our thoughts would be an example, or the wind. But I fill my mind. I literally imagine that my mind is this sort of like a bowl or cup that light is constantly pouring in, and that light comes from my higher mind. So it carries with it knowledge and intelligence and truth, a higher truth, right? And that I imagine that it's seeping into my own mind and my brain cells and my brain tracts, and I literally ask it to elevate my own thinking so that I can be more in alignment with my higher mind. This is my job. This is how I view it, right? If my job is to bridge the gap between my humanity and my divinity, and the fulcrum of that is my mind, then this is me being a good director of my mind, which is what our conscious mind is supposed to do, right? If there's one job our conscious mind has, it's to be a good director of how we utilize the moment, right? So in this moment, I want my mind to be filled with light, which carries my higher mind's intelligence. We can see light. I can see, this is my point in offering this to you as a suggestion, if you like it, is that I can actually envision this light. I can envision like a waterfall of light. To me, it looks like a kind of a sparkly, translucent, gold white light. Sometimes I change the colors if I want certain qualities because every light ray carries different qualities with it. There's a whole thing on this in the creative part of our Sacred Health Academy. There's 12 primary rays of light, and each of those rays carry various qualities. So we can draw upon them to amplify, elements or qualities about ourselves, right? Like courage or a cleansing nature or a transformational nature or the ability to strengthen the right use of our will, right? So one of the things about the right use of our will is being consciously aware of using our conscious mind as a good director of our energy, right? That could be our mental energy, our emotional energy, our physical energy, our spiritual energy, right? So anyway, getting back to the point is that I can see, and most of us can develop this capacity to see a light filling our head. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen those photographs or those pictures of, they're usually pictures of saints or spiritual beings where there'll be this sort of orb of light around their head. It includes their head, but it's an orb of light around their head. This is kind of what I'm talking about. Those are beings who have aligned their own mind so fully with their higher mind that there's an emanation that some people can see of this light force that surrounds their head in an orb like way. So I see an orb in the middle of my head. I see it as alive and it breathes just like, I see it kind of pulsing like when a human being is breathing and their chest rises and falls and their belly rises and falls. This is the same thing, this orb of light in my head. And then I expand it out so that it covers everything in my head. And I request that there is a permanent alignment with my higher mind so that I'm constantly being fed right use of thoughts, and correct understanding and intelligence that comes from way beyond my small human mind that is very limited, is usually usually what am I trying to say here, is usually almost always going to be thinking in terms of lack and limitation and stress and anxiety. That's just kind of the nature of the lower human mind, disconnected from the source of life, right? So you probably know that by now because you live it. I live it. Every human being lives it, right? Like I'm not trying to be rude and say you live it, but every human being lives it until they make these conscious decisions and choices day in and day out to use their consciousness in a way that is more in this alignment. And the other reason this is important is because our subconscious is what drives us, right? Most of us have heard this for a long time now, that our subconscious, which is below our conscious awareness, is kind of what drives all of our behaviors, our choices, our drives, our addictions, all the things, right? And so imagine if we use our conscious mind as a good director, just like a movie director, right? We say, okay, action, and we make a very clear choice about what our actions, what our thoughts, what our choices are going to be, and we do this in concert with our higher mind. There's healing that flows into our conscious mind because our higher mind informs our subconscious mind what is true about any given situation. And this is personal medicine for you because any given situation means you and your life and everything that's happened up until this point in time in your experience of life. All the things, good, bad, and ugly, all the ways that patterns showed up and belief systems arised and all of this but some of them are good for you and some of them are less serving. And so when we allow this sort of cleansing and purifying of our subconscious mind by our higher mind, because our conscious mind is directing that, it changes the landscape of our consciousness. And this is called healing and transformation, because changing the landscape of our consciousness means that different chemicals are released into our body, and this is where the personal medicine comes in. This is your higher presence and your divinity and your higher mind rearranging your subconscious mind for wholeness. And that's a big deal, and that's why we're here. We may think we're here for other reasons, and we are here for other reasons, but not at the expense of this one reason. Everything comes from the foundation of this one reason, of bringing ourselves into the conscious awareness of wholeness, so that everything we do comes from that place. So go play with that. Please be willing to read the broader scope, the greater context of this, and gift your mind the light that it is. And I will see. Oh, I always forget to introduce myself. I do this at the last. I mean, you probably know this by now. I'm Laurie Morse, and I'm a 30-year practitioner of Chinese medicine and the director of the Sacred Health Academy, which is an online educational experience where women who are looking toward or in the second half of their life, who've tried everything and know pretty much at the conscious level, maybe not 100% consciously, but some version or some portion consciously, that they need to include their sacred self. And they don't know how, they don't know where to start, they don't know what that means. And this journey actually supports that path of walking a sacred journey. So grab the book, and thank you for being with me today. And I'd love to hear what this evokes in you. What does it mean for you to have this conscious mind being a good director in order to be in alignment with your higher mind, so that your subconscious mind is elevated and transformed into your highest design, right? Let me know. I'd love to hear. Until then, be well, and we'll see you in a future class.